What's up everybody, Frank Valkyria, welcome to the channel. I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic today. So, let's talk about the Dutch farmer again. Things are still going, and I was watching a few videos on your suggestions, and it's interesting what Russell Brand is saying right here. Somebody else is reporting on the video. I don't know if he's paraphrasing, but it says it's a scam. The objective isn't to get the farmer to behave in an organic, responsible, ecological, opposite manner. Far from it. It is in order to bankrupt the farmer so that their land can be grabbed. Of course, you might think like conspiracy theory. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the truth, honestly. But I do have a lot of questions in regard, because obviously I'm thinking the government here is passing those laws, has passed those laws that basically forced farmers to cut down on their production, to cut on the nitrogen they produce. Some areas up to 70%. So that means that probably some farmers which they work in those areas, they've reduced to the point where probably their business is not profitable anymore and declare bankruptcy. And then you find out, who the land, who is going to buy that land. So I don't think it's impossible, of course, that the government or other entities might use that opportunity, because that's what happens usually. Out of a crisis, somebody steps in, corporation usually, and they take it from you. So it's not really unreasonable. But I do have a question in regards of, is this more because of the dairy meat industry, or vegetables and fruit and vegetables in general, grains? Which one is the bigger kind of like culprit responsible, so to speak, for this nitrogen in the country? We have also learned from the other video that the global farming in general, including probably dairy, meat industry, and poultry, everything together with vegetables and fruit, was responsible for between 13-18% of the global pollution. And other factors like energy production, logistics, transportation, both of commerce products and of people, were more than 30%, 40% or 50%. So quite a big number. So by default, you're already thinking like, how come they're not tackling that first or enough, and they choose to go to the farmers? So, and of course, because we also need farmers to produce food. But I do have other question there is in regard of like our own behavior, like we design also the society we live in with our choices, how much meat you eat, how much fish you eat, how much dairy, how much cheese, and so on and so forth. Of course, that has a huge impact in the way things are produced. But my question is also like, a lot of those companies are corporations. Basically, they buy from the farmers. The farmers are under a huge pressure to produce cheaply, more efficiently, to push their crop by probably using more fertilizer and whatnot. And the companies are probably the one that make the most profit out of it. Call me out if I'm wrong. I'm open, of course, to learn every day more and to be educated. So, but my question is like, why they don't go after, why the politicians, the governments, they don't go after those big corporations, which they're also responsible for basically promoting certain foods on us, on people, and dictating the price of certain food instead of others on people, themselves designing basically the way we consume and the way we buy. No, instead they go straight to the farmers. And when I see articles like this or messages like this, like here you have the UN, which wants to apparently kind of accelerate the relationship between them and the economic
This afternoon, the Secretary General and Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, will witness the signing of a memorandum of understanding on a strategic partnership between the UN and the World Economic Forum, which outlines areas of cooperation to deepen engagement between the two institutions and to jointly accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda.
The 2030 Agenda, wow. The 2030 Agenda. I was also reading, like, that in Sri Lanka, the president that fled the country after the protest, now actually they've elected a new president. His name is Ranil Wickremesinghe, or Wickremesinghe. Sorry if I mispronounce. And the previous president fled the country and apparently was pushing for a more green agenda that seemed to have basically the effect of bankrupting the country, defaulting on their foreign debt, but also more importantly destroying the way farmers produce, forcing them to use probably certain ways of production which were not profitable, especially with the increasing price of fuel, which also, and inflation, which is happening also in other surrounding countries. So you do worry also about other poorer countries like perhaps Bangladesh, Laos, which they might face similar problems in the near future. Again, I'm just thinking, like, how, like, this, rules, new legislations, whatever they are, once they are in place, what a real impact will they really have on the environment if we continue to burn coal to produce electricity, which now actually in Germany, and I think also here, they're reopening some because of the problem with Ukraine and Russia, and obviously the problem of producing energy that we need. So this is, of course, a bigger picture. This is something bigger. And again, I was also watching, like, whether or not you believe this is true, I have no way to tell. But here somebody posted this. The World Economic Forum has revealed plans to buy up farm and land from Dutch farmers who were bankrupted by the climate change policies. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the truth. There was also something here that just came out. Again, I don't know. This was posted by this person right here. Bill Gates is under investigation after buying a massive amount of farmland in North Dakota. I'm aware that I've read this already a while ago, that Bill Gates was buying land everywhere. Probably is not the only billionaire that is doing that. Again, I'm not surprised, because who controls the land controls the future, because it's through the land that you produce food. So it's something that we need to see. But there's so much to learn, because I also don't know all those details. Like, I'm totally for a more green approach to farming, but people here are rejecting a little bit what Russell Brand was saying. I don't think Russell understands organic farming can't feed the world. The government promised more manure, but it would take at least 5 times as much manure as country produces to replace the synthetic nitrogen fixed from the air. And there's not enough livestock or land to produce that much. In Glasgow for the climate summit last year, Sri Lanka's president was still boasting that his agriculture policy was in sync with nature. Again, what I was telling you before, probably trying to apply more green agenda measure into the country of Sri Lanka, which basically backfired, I suppose. So I don't know the numbers. Here, this is probably a matter of debate. And I would love to read more scientific papers in regard whether it's possible or not. I think it's mandatory that we find a way probably to cycle through the crops, also not having probably monocrops. I already long time ago, I remember reading articles, watching documentaries about big corporations basically forcing on farmers seeds that are sterile. And I remember this documentary of this man that was the last one, I think, in the US, which was basically doing a sort of filtering of the seeds, and reusing the seeds from the previous harvest. And it's, of course, an old technique that it's dying off, because those big corporations, they push, those monocultural, like sterile seed, which then you have to rebuy because they have a patent on it. To me, that honestly doesn't look like a very organic way of going about farming. And again, I'm sure there must be a way in between where we all take our place, in the way we choose for our food, I'm not suggesting you should go vegan or vegetarian, but I'm pretty sure that nowadays there is enough evidence to show that mostly a normal person, apart from people which have particularly difficulties or maybe immune diseases of some type, which perhaps they have to eat one thing instead of another. But it seems that there is a huge evidence that, a diverse diet, mostly of vegetables and fruit, a little bit of dairy, a little bit of meat, it's probably most beneficial for humans. So the idea that we have to stuff ourselves with beef and bacon 5 times a day, every day for the rest of your life, probably it's not exactly good. And that's what, unfortunately, the big corporations, again, are pushing on us through advertisement, through producing junk food, selling junk food, selling the idea and the image of junk food through commercials, chain foods, and so on and so forth. So there must be our awareness and responsibility, I suppose, to change that and redesign the way we basically, by default, push farmers to create food in that manner. So I think that going back to more sustainable way of mixing this stuff, using pesticide, yes, but using seeds, not probably using seeds which they're steriles, like cycling on top of crops. I also know for a fact that a lot of land in the world is used for crop that goes directly to feed cattle, and it's not even probably good stuff, because I worked on cargo ships, and a lot of times we went to take soy from Canada to Europe to feed the cattle, and to my understanding, seems that soy is not probably the best food to give cows in general. Most likely hay, it's a better, like grass-fed, right? It's probably a better way of feeding the cows. And I was just listening to a gentleman somewhere, if I could find it. If I don't find it, then I'm just telling you. A gentleman that was talking about how basically when farmers, they choose to use fertilizer 300-400% on corn instead of hay, of course, as a reduction in the production of hay, which by default, of course, the cow that eat hay, you produce less cow, and that affects the production of meat and the price of meat. It's all connected to hay, for instance. So I was listening to that, and I thought that was quite interesting. So whether or not this is all a big scheme to allow the World Economic Forum to go ahead with their agenda, well, I'm definitely open to the conspiracy in the way that I've never believed that the government anyway has my best interest in mind. If you would ask me, my humble opinion, it's that people in power, they like to stay in power, and they want you to consume. So we, the masses, like you see right there, we are only as good as long as we keep feeding ourselves the food that they want us to eat, which doesn't mean it's necessarily the best food that you should eat, but most likely it's the most addictive food, not the best for your health. So I would urge yourself, because I urge myself first, to learn more about food and to also demand for better foods, for sure, because it's not unusual now to read of studies. I actually was reading one that came out recently about people in the Netherlands. I don't know how many samples they took from people in their urine, and they found traces of microplastic. That's unprecedented. I'm pretty sure that 100 years ago this would never have been possible. So the way we're consuming, the way we're producing is definitely affecting our health and our society. And again, despite all that I said, I'm still on the side of the farmers, of course, because the government, they should come with a plan to let those people transition if they have in mind the greater good, not just making the farmer bankrupt and they take the land from them, And again, my question is, we have to learn more about food, what we consume, what we put in our mouth, because probably there's a difference in between a piece of beef that it's being grass-fed, and a piece of beef that it's probably like, a cow that it's being fed on soy and has taken all kinds of hormone to grow quicker, antibiotic, who knows what, because you also know that nowadays chicken are grown way faster than they used to. I think there is a quality of chicken that literally grows in weeks, like many weeks less than their normal times, and they grow to the point sometimes where they can barely stand up because, of course, they've been sort of modified to produce more breast meat and so on and so forth. All those things, of course, can be checked. I'm just recollecting from all the documentaries, things that I've read. So at the end of the day, we are all involved here, and we also have to become more conscious, and I'm learning more about this, and I want to learn more about this, because at the end of the day, we also have some say in it, not only in the way we buy, but also in the way we demand the food to be produced in a certain way. Because if you start to know that the stuff that you're giving your kids, it's potentially causing autoimmune diseases down the road in 20 years, then you want to make sure that we know enough about what kind of food we consume, what it's in it, and the effect that it has on us. So yeah, I think it's important. So guys, I'll keep updating you as much as possible. I hope that those people don't win. I hope those people, that we become fluent enough, educated enough, that somehow we can oppose whatever kind of scam in the future they want to throw on us. Because like I said, I don't believe for a second that the governments, they have our best interest in mind. They have the best interest of the powerful. And I think they're underestimating, though, that we can do a lot. But in order to do a lot, we have to keep educating ourselves, and that we have to keep learning. And then our power is where we choose to spend our money on. So anyway, guys, I'll update you another time. Stay strong, stay healthy. I'll talk to you later.